Hey, what's up guys? Today I'll be doing a review on the Cleto Reyes amateur competition boxing gloves. So check it out. Hey guys, Carlo here, and today I'm doing a review on the Cleto Reyes amateur competition boxing gloves. I got mine in blue, 10 ounces. It's a Velcro closure glove with an elastic sleeve designed for amateur use. You can get these gloves in red as well as 12 ounces. So 10 or 12 ounces, just depending on the weight class that you'll be competing in. I've done many reviews of Cleto Reyes boxing gloves, if not all of their gloves, to be honest with you, now that I think about it. Used them and reviewed them in the past. I've reviewed their traditional training gloves, their extra padding gloves, their Safe Tech gloves, their traditional fight gloves, as well as their newer hybrid glove. But I've never tried their amateur glove, and what kind of made me curious about these is how they're designed differently for amateur use, if there's any difference in the kind of padding they use on the inside, as well as just how the glove feels when you put it on. I know that over the years it's been both praise and complaints when it came to Reyes in terms of just the comfort of the glove. Some people didn't mind the comfort, some gloves were comfortable, and some people just flat out hate the way Reyes feels, especially how the thumb is and just the overall hand compartment. So that's kind of where my curiosity came in when it came to these amateur gloves. Now this glove is designed specifically for amateur use. One thing you'll notice on here on the elastic band is you do have that official USA Boxing according to specs, so you can use it for both sanctioned USA Boxing or USA Amateur Boxing, should I say, bouts, and they're also designed for Olympic use as well. So just depending on the sanctioning body and the competition that's being held, they'll obviously choose what brand they're going to want to use, because Title, Ringside, Reyes, Sting, and a couple other brands I know I'm forgetting make an approved amateur boxing glove, and it's really up to them from that standpoint on which brand they're going to go with, because it has to be consistent during the fights or during the bouts that everyone's wearing the same gloves. You can't have one fighter wearing one pair that's a completely different brand and another fighter wearing a different pair. They all have to be consistent throughout. So again, was really curious to see how these would perform. For me, I've just been using them in my training, hitting the heavy bag, hitting the double end bag, just overall training work. And the whole point behind that is that way I can give you guys my perspective on how they actually perform and feel. My first impression when I opened these up, and I did the unboxing video a couple weeks ago, was that they kind of remind me of a cross between their traditional training glove when it comes to the shape of the glove, that more conical kind of tapered shape, but it has the compactness of their pro fight gloves. It's full genuine leather construction, just like everything else Reyes. It's made in Mexico. You'll notice that the leather on here has a very shiny look to it. I believe they use a waterproof repellent that they spray on the glove prior to packaging it. That way it keeps the gloves in good shape and the leather itself nice and supple. You have the Cleto Reyes logo on the back of the glove. I don't have any issues with it peeling as of yet. The profile of the glove, I'd say, is a little bit more on the compact side. Again, I'd say the sizing is pretty close to like their 10-ounce fight gloves. Rotating to the palm side, there's no ventilation on either the thumb or the palm. You'll notice that it has a very nice dense grip bar, that it has more of that kind of flatter rectangular shape rather than it being rounded out. You have a piece of elastic keeping the palm side piping together, as well as I believe like a serial number or the date of manufacture. B910, January of 2020. I'm assuming that's when these gloves were actually made in the factory. Coming down to the back side, you do have the elastic that says Cleto Reyes, made in Mexico, amateur, with the 10-ounce tag. I showed you guys earlier just the USA Boxing approval. Another thing you'll notice is that this elastic cuff is actually stitched in to the top of the back of the wrist support. So that is not something you can actually remove. If you guys have ever had a pair of the old school Everlast Protex gloves, not the cheap ones you can find at the sporting goods stores, and the nicer one with better padding that you can purchase directly from Everlast. They used to come actually with an elastic sleeve very similar to this. So You do have that sleeve, and underneath that is the actual Velcro strap that is about 2 inches, about maybe 1.75 inches, 2 inches in thickness. And that's what's going to give you the wrist support during your fight. You'll notice that the inside of the leather, just like other authentic Reyes products, is actually branded. So that's printed in there. It says Reyes. It has a serial number. The wrist support, I'd say, has about maybe almost a 1/2 inch of medium density padding on the back of the wrist, as well as I'd say about the same on the inside that goes up to right here, as well as up to the stitching. Polyester nylon liner, smooth liner on the inside. The tag that you see in all Reyes products shows where it's actually manufactured, as well as the warning label. And that's pretty much it. One thing to note when you put these gloves on is if you have the sleeve off and you put these gloves on by yourself, you'll notice that once I have the Velcro attached, it's physically impossible for me to put the sleeve on, or this elastic sleeve, because there's no way for it to go over the glove. So essentially what you have to do with this glove, if you're going to use it during your training, is you have to preset the Velcro to where you want it to be at. So if you want it a little bit looser, you don't have to make it snug. You can just kind of leave the Velcro where you want it. And then you have to put the sleeve over the glove and slide it on. And then from there, you have to put it on. The only issue I had with that is that it's a very snug fit. So putting it on with hand wraps on is extremely tight, and quite frankly, just a pain in the ass. So if you're gonna be using this just for your own home use for training, my best recommendation, and I know a lot of people are gonna be like, you shouldn't do that to your gloves, but you might have to end up just kind of removing that stitching and just taking the sleeve off. Otherwise, you're just gonna have to use it where the sleeve part's just gonna be kind of flopping around, or you have to slide it over your hands like I just showed you. So if you're planning on keeping these gloves just for hit the heavy bag, double end bag work, I would not use these for sparring. They're not large enough and protective enough for sparring. Then I would maybe kind of clip this part off the back of the wrist. That way you can fully remove this and then just use the Velcro strap rather than having this elastic piece go over it. Or at least to where you can put this elastic piece on your forearm, put the gloves on, and then slide it forward onto the cuff. So that's my only, I wouldn't even necessarily call it a complaint, but that's just how this is designed for amateur use. Obviously it's not meant to be an all-out training glove, hence why Reyes makes their own training glove that's different than this. So that's my recommendation in that regard. Quality-wise, the gloves are fantastic. I mean, Reyes to me is what they're really known for is their craftsmanship, especially the kind of leather they use. I know some people call it like piel planchada. The type of leather that's used on here is very thick, high quality leather. You can see the stitching looks amazing on the glove, just like you would expect from Reyes leather attached thumb. For those of you wondering what kind of padding they use on here, is definitely different than what they use in their training glove, and especially different from their fight gloves. They use latex foam, but the latex they use in here is a little bit more densely padded. Not rock solid. It's not like molded foam to where you push on it, it just feels like you're pushing into a wall, but it definitely has a much more denser feel. So, in terms of amateur competition, I'd say it's a little bit more protective. I feel like amateur fights are kind of like a cross between sparring, like regular good hard sparring, and an actual professional fight. So you're kind of a cross between the two. So with amateur sparring, that's why amateur fights, excuse me, you're not going to see obviously as many knockouts as you would in a professional fight, just because the gloves are designed to be a little bit more protective for you and your opponent. And amateur is really more about the point system rather than you going for a straight out knockout. Now that's not to say that in amateur fights you don't see people get knocked out, because you do still. But again, it's just a bit, it's there to be a little bit more protective. So to me, that's what that latex foam padding is there for. But overall, I mean, the quality on these are amazing. I didn't really find any flaws. The weight is exactly on point too. So the left glove, I think, was like exactly at 10 ounces. The right glove is like at 10.1 ounces. So pretty much exactly on point with the weight. You can also see that the glove is pretty well balanced. You don't have a lot of sag, so the distribution of weight throughout the entire glove is done very well. Comfort wise, I know this is the area that a lot of people, whenever they get a pair of Reyes gloves, are crossing their fingers that they don't feel like crap when they put them on. I know I do. So first things first, the hand compartment feels good for a 10-ounce glove. It feels compact, which is supposed to feel. Even with my hand wraps on, it was a pretty snug fit, especially around the thumb. I wish this was a little bit looser. I'd say the actual shape and the positioning of the thumb is, I'd say, a little bit better than their training gloves, but it's still kind of flared out. I wish they would kind of pull it in a little bit more. And another thing is when you make a fist, you'll notice that the attached thumb pulls down on the tip of the thumb. So I felt like there were several times where I would throw a really good jab or sharp jab, and then obviously my hand inside the glove will shift a little bit and my thumb would just kind of jam into the tip. So that's one area that I didn't really like. Grip bar feels good. The finger compartment feels pretty good as well. I think it's a little bit maybe on the narrow side, maybe a little bit roomier would be nice. I feel like my pinky kind of runs into my ring finger a little bit more than it should. And then you also feel the stitching right here on the inside of the hand compartment. And then right around, I'd say like this area, you can feel some of the leather is kind of exposed on the inside. The liner doesn't feel bad. And the glove, I'd say, is a little bit on the stiffer side. Not super stiff, but it's not extremely broken in as well. And that's because of the padding that they use. That latex is a little bit more on the denser, stiffer side than like their regular Pro Fight gloves or their Safe Tech gloves. But outside of that, the gloves feel pretty good. Again, the key points to take away would be the piping, the depth of the thumb, and the exposed stitching, and the finger compartment being a little bit on the narrow side. Performance and protection wise, I feel like this foam does a really good job of giving you good amount of shock absorption. If you're looking for something that's very absorbent, you can definitely get it. It's not as good feedback wise as their Pro Fight gloves, like their Safe Techs, or even their traditional fight gloves. And you'll notice that even the foam is a little bit more rounded out on this punch surface. It's not as flat and conforming like their fight gloves or even their training gloves. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But if you're looking for something a little bit more shock absorbent from Reyes, that's a little bit more protective, if you have a sore knuckle, something like that, and you want more of a compact glove to use for like mitt work or bag work, then this definitely would be a solid choice. Cost-wise, these gloves are, I believe, $169. So right there in the ballpark of what their training gloves cost, maybe a little bit cheaper. You know, Reyes gloves are kind of in that wheelhouse. It also depends on who you purchase it from. You get it directly from Reyes. I also know that they use third parties to sell their products as well. So there's going to be a little bit of plus or minus when it comes to the cost. But directly from Reyes, these gloves are $169. I love the quality of them. I feel like there's a couple of minor tweaks on the inside of the hand compartment that can make it more comfortable. I do like the latex foam padding. It is an amateur competition glove. So, you know, if you're using these for an amateur bout, you're probably only going to use them for maybe 4 rounds, if that. As far as using it for your own personal use at home, I would honestly get their fight gloves. If I had a choice to do it all over again, I would probably go with some 10-ounce Safe Techs, because essentially you're getting kind of the same type of glove, although the Safe Techs are going to be lace up. But I just feel like the feedback and I feel like the comfort in the Safe Techs to me are better than it is in the amateur glove. So I would say, you know, stick to using this mainly just for amateur competition. If you're going to use it for training, go with the Safe Techs, maybe go with their traditional training gloves, and I would probably skip over these in my opinion. So if you guys have any questions or comments, make sure you guys leave them down below in the comments box. I'll put the link in the description box where you find these Reyes amateur competition boxing gloves. See you guys later. Take care.